Hi everybody, it is time again for Q&A Wednesday, where I answer questions that a lot of my clients have had or that you guys tell me that you have when it comes to your goals with health and fitness. So we're going to talk tonight about travel because, it's starting to, well, the weather's just been lovely, right? But pretty soon we're going to start to think spring and summer. And of course, I always think travel and spring break's coming up. So all those great things are coming. But, a lot of times people think, well, I do great until I leave on vacation or I leave for a business trip, and then it's just all out the window. So we're going to talk about how you can still stick with your goals or at least mitigate some of the damage you might do when you're on vacation. But the biggest part is just learning to travel and do it in a way that's not only healthy, but actually makes it so much easier. I actually just had one of my clients get back from traveling to see her family, and she had taken her meals with her, and she said, wow, I just didn't realize how much easier it was to not even have to think about where I got to go and am I going to be able to get a meal and am I going to be able to make this work because I have big goals and I really want to make sure that I reach them. So we're going to talk about that tonight. Having done this plenty of times myself, I have some great tips on that. It's not as difficult as you might think. However, it does take a little bit of preparation in a couple of ways. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk a little bit also about vacation versus, traveling to, for family or whatever. I think you have to determine that your goal is big enough that it's something that you still want to stick with even when you travel. Now, vacations might be a slightly different ballgame, and we're going to talk about that before we're done as well, because of course, when I'm on vacation, I want to enjoy vacation. But it doesn't mean I want to go crazy and I don't want to come back as like a just, I don't want to have to roll me home, right? So let's talk about the best way when you travel to make sure that you can do what you need to do. Now, if you're just traveling, like let's just say back and forth, maybe in the state for business, that's not that difficult of a deal, right? Because if you're already going to and from work, you're already packing your food, right? And don't tell me you don't need to food prep because I'm not doing anything. You know what? If you take your lunch to work, you already food prep. It's okay. It makes it easier and it makes it so that you can actually eat a healthier option versus running through the drive-through all the time. Once in a while the drive-through is okay, but I'm going to tell you, if you regularly eat fast food, I don't care how healthy you choose, even on that fast food, you still have no control over a lot of things like what that food's actually made of, if it contains sugar, or even sometimes the weirdest things can contain gluten, if you can believe it. Think omelets at sit-down restaurants. Yeah, not kidding. It has flour in it to make them fluffy. So you just have to be a little more aware of, like I said, fast food once in a while is okay, but honestly, I don't even eat fast food unless it's a drunk purchase because I just don't like it. It doesn't make me feel good. And I'd rather eat better tasting food anyway. So when you do need to travel, so if you're traveling within the state, if you're traveling just day travel, you should already have that down, right? I just take a big cooler with me. I always food prep probably 2 nights a week, just because I don't really like things to sit in the refrigerator that long. It starts to get a little bit dry. So I do usually like a Sunday night and a Wednesday night, or if I run out of something in between, I take my cooler with me everywhere I go. It's in my car. I don't even take an expensive 6-pack bag. It's literally like a Coleman or whatever the cheap blue coolers are. That's what I've got in my car. It makes it easy. Now, if you're traveling a little bit further, you're going to have to do a little bit of research, okay? So first of all, you got to decide where you're going and where you're staying, okay? We'll talk a little bit later about like extended stay, but for now, if you're going to stay with friends, are you going to stay in a hotel? Are you staying with family? Well, you have access to a kitchen. If you are staying at a hotel, you should already know before you get there, does the room have a mini fridge, or at least a decent size? Some of those fridges don't fit enough to make a difference. Can you get, or is there a microwave in the room? Are you staying at a hotel that has a small kitchen, like a Residence Inn or an extended stay hotel? Because that way it makes it a lot easier to know whether or not you need to bring food with you, or can you cook food while you're there? On top of that, I want to know, and it doesn't even matter to me whether I fly or whether I drive, I want to know how close is the nearest grocery store, because if I forget something gets thrown out, whatever, I need to know that I can still make that up and I can still fix that without having to get cheap stuff from a convenience store. Although it's still doable, it's just not as great of a deal. So if you know what you've got when you get there, you know how close the grocery store is. Can you Uber there? Or did you rent a car? Just having a base plan. Now, it's important to have a plan B. We're going to talk about that as well, but it's important to have a base plan when you get there so you know you can already stay on task. Plus, then you don't have to think about, okay, which restaurants can I really eat at? And then when you get to the restaurant, okay, now I'm tempted to make a choice I don't really want to make. You're putting yourself in a position to already fail when you could have already circumvented that by being prepared. I also like to know what kind of a gym does the hotel have? Does it have decent cardio equipment, or am I going to have to go to a neighboring gym? How far away is it, and what's the day rate for that gym? That's important to me. You know, to me, when I travel, that's no excuse. I build my workouts into my travel because it's important to me and I want to stay within my goals. Also, if I do end up wanting to go to a restaurant, needing to go to a restaurant, or, you know, are you there on business and you're going to have to kind of mitigate what they're offering for the meal there? I always do my homework to know what restaurants I'm going to, come on, Yelp is there, guys. You have no excuse not to know exactly what you want to eat when you walk in the door of the restaurant. First of all, that makes it a whole lot easier to just walk in and choose the healthier version versus, oh, wow, those nachos look really good. Maybe I should do that. No, you shouldn't. You already know you shouldn't. Unless it's a planned cheat meal, don't go with the nachos. Go with what your plan is. Yes, I already know that I'm a little too detail oriented, but it saves me from really beating myself up when I make bad choices. If I make a not so good choice, it's usually because I've already planned to allow myself something extra, and then I don't kick myself because that was a plan, right? So doing a little bit of pre-planning makes a huge difference. Now, if you're staying with family, are they going to be offended if you don't eat the food that they make? You may have to talk to somebody in advance and warn them, hey, you know, my coach has given me this meal plan. I'm on some macros. I've got this meal plan thing I'm doing. Can you help me out? Will I be able to use your kitchen? Can I store my things in your fridge? Kind of giving them a heads up versus waiting to get there and then offending them because you're not eating their spaghetti is probably a better choice. And especially if they know what your big goal is tied to that. You know, I do work with a lot of competitors, and that's a pretty easy goal to say, look, my coach says I can't have that. But when you're just a reasonable person trying to make a lifestyle change, sometimes it's really hard to tell them, yeah, I can't eat that. So you might give them what your dietary restrictions are. If you were a type 2 diabetic or had some other, you know, if you were allergic to some food, you would tell that person, hey, I can't have spinach. I can't have peanuts. That's not something, I will go into anaphylactic shock. That's important. Okay, Lynette says junk food hurts her gut, and for some reason she has to remind herself every 6 months. I actually think that is totally reasonable because so do I. You know, once in a while, it's okay to have a really decent, disgusting, eat whatever the hell you want cheat meal, because by the time I'm done with that, I'm so sick, I can't do it again. To me, that's like Thanksgiving. Like, eat whatever I want on Thanksgiving because I want to not want that again, right? It's okay. You're human and we all do it. So, you know, if you have to warn the people that you're staying with, going with, please do. Like, I mean, why should they be offended? Your goals are your goals. Don't let somebody talk you out of that. I think that's really, really important. So let's talk a little bit about taking food with you. Now, there are times and places that you can't. Obviously, internationally, my hair is sticking up kind of funky. Internationally, they don't allow you to take food usually. So check the restrictions to whatever country that you're going to. But if you're flying within the continental United States, you can take food with you on the plane. You just can't take liquids or pastes. So don't try to take a jar of peanut butter. It doesn't work. If it's on a sandwich, it's different. But if it's in, you know, it just doesn't work. However, I take food with me every time I fly. So I have this really great, we have multiple bags, but this is the main one that we use. It's just an insulated travel bag, right? And, you know, TSA goes through it every time. I really don't care. Not a big deal. But I take all my food. Because it's not as big, I can't always take my major containers that I make it in, but I do take everything in baggies and maybe take 1 or 2 containers. I can dump it in when I'm ready to go. You guys, it makes it so much easier than having to go, okay, can I eat at the airport? Can I eat at a restaurant? Where can I actually find food? I've been stuck in a restaurant, in an airport for several hours without food and had to like scavenge in the middle of contest prep as well. I've had to scavenge something that I could actually eat because I didn't have enough food with me. It is doable. It's just super hard. And I don't want you to have to make not so great choices just because you're stuck in a position where you don't have any good options. So I always take my bag with me. Now, you can take it on the plane and you can take cool things. You can take ice. Here's the deal on the ice. It just has to be sealed and it has to be frozen solid. They can't take that from you. If it's liquid, they can take it. But if it's frozen solid, you can take the stuff on a plane. Super easy. They might go through it. Thanks, Angel. They'll go through it, but no biggie. They're always pulling my protein powder going, what is this? And I'm like, it's not cocaine. Get over it. It's protein powder. Actually, my local airport knows me really well at this point. They actually are like, oh, here she comes. So you can take this with you. I always take a plan A, which is whatever my meal plan is for the week. You know, and maybe that changes for you weekly. That's okay. if I have the option to cook while I'm there, I definitely try to do that just because I like to have some fresh food here and there, but I don't plan on it. But I do plan on having a plan B. I think that's super important because, again, you never know when they're going to throw something out, something goes bad in your bag because it just did. So I always have extra stuff with me. So I do usually take protein powder, and I'm not limiting that to airplane rides only. No matter where I'm traveling, I like to have like some almonds, some protein powder, maybe a protein bar. That's the only time that I do take protein bars with me. To me, that's a plan B or a plan C. Protein bars, you guys, are still a processed food. It is still not as good as real whole food that's not processed. And the problem with a lot of protein bars, depending on the brand that you like and the ones that taste like sugar, there's a lot of protein bars that you might as well eat a Snickers, because if you look at the ingredients, they're very similar. And the problem is you're not getting a wholesome product. I tend to like the Quest bars. There's some low sugar ones. I'm trying to think of the other brand. There's another one. I think it's I can't remember. I usually do like the Quest or the Kirkland brand of the Quest. They're very similar because they're really low sugar and they're easy to eat. They taste great. But again, to me, that's not a regular healthy food. That's kind of a, oops, I just didn't bring enough stuff. I also like to take the tuna packets because they are super simple. Now, I don't like to open them on the planes because, of course, they smell. But just not a problem. It's super easy. They're non-perishable, so they can sit in my backpack. They don't have to be refrigerated. But I have food with me, so no matter what, I'm usually covered no matter what happens. And then if I end up having excess food because I do go to a dinner, again, I usually know where I'm going. I've usually already picked something by the time I get there. Here's the cool thing, guys. If you go to a sit-down restaurant, almost every sit-down restaurant has decent options. So it is no excuse to say, well, I had to go to a restaurant, I didn't have anything. Lots of restaurants have become a lot more health conscious because you have become more health conscious. We have as a nation. They are willing to do special requests. When I travel, I know somewhere I can either get a decent steak or I can get some salmon. Now, again, watch the sauces and stuff. I can get some grilled chicken and I can get a salad. I can make my own dressing. Sometimes I'll just use lemon and a little bit of salt if I have nothing else, maybe a little bit of oil and vinegar. I don't have to make it yucky. I don't have to make it unhealthy. So every restaurant has something that you should be able to do that. And they're willing to usually take requests for steamed vegetables, dressing on the side. Again, it's not that difficult. You just have to practice a little bit and know what you need to do when you walk in the door. Fortunately, I really don't have a whole lot of trouble asking for special requests because they take one look at me and go, oh, well, she knows what she needs. So it's usually pretty easy. But again, it's just not that hard to make some, pre-decisions so that when you get there, you don't have a problem. So, that's really the easiest way to go there. Take your own food, have some plan A's and plan B's. I also, again, know what I need to do if I need to walk into a grocery store because I'm either out of food, don't have enough, something went bad. I know exactly what I can get when I go to the grocery store that still meets my needs and stays within my macros and isn't like processed yuck, right? Okay, so we talked about the extra food. Let's talk a little bit about vacations because, I know a lot of times, now maybe you go on vacation and really it's, who cares? Enjoy yourself. If that's what you've planned, do it. Don't feel bad about it. Sometimes you can go to excess, but when we go to Mexico, we just kind of go, we're gonna have a blast, right? But it's not always necessary. Several years ago, we took our kids to Disneyland for Christmas, and we actually rented a VRBO, a vacation rental by owner. There's also Airbnb, so you do have multiple choices for that. We rented a house because I've got a big enough family that if we would have rented hotel rooms, it would have cost us I think it cost us like maybe $1,000 or $1,200 for the week. And we had a full kitchen. We rented a car, so that was easy. But we were able to do grocery shopping, cook our own meals. We didn't have to eat in the park every day because, to be honest, I don't want to eat like Disneyland park food. It's disgusting. It doesn't even taste that great. We still went out for a couple of meals, usually outside the park, but that gave us the ability to have a lot more control because most of my family tries to eat relatively healthy at this point. So if you do travel for vacation and you want to try and stay a little more on task, do it. Either, again, take your food with you, do some grocery shopping, make a choice of where you're staying that has healthier options or a kitchen, or usually my goal is to maybe have 1 or 2 meals that week or whatever the length of my vacation is that are a little more splurge, right? Maybe we'll go out for some pasta or something that's a little off plan, but I plan for it so I know that I'm not doing that at every meal. The problem is if you really go crazy at every meal and all you do is drink and eat garbage the whole time, first of all, you're probably not going to enjoy your vacation very much, because you're going to feel pretty crappy when you eat unhealthy food. But one or two isn't going to get you down. And if it's a vacation, why not? Plus, usually I've done my research and I know where I want to go, because my philosophy on the food is if I have to work it off, it better be the best thing I've ever had in the world. It better taste amazing. If you've ever had a cheat meal that was a total flop and a disappointment, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I don't want to get there and be like, wow, that pizza really sucked. That was not worth it, right? You know, if I'm gonna have a cheat or a free meal, I want it to be the most amazing thing I've ever eaten. So it is doable. You just have to plan a little bit ahead and make sure that you know where you're going. Now, if it's a last minute, you know, I know I've had somebody recently that had a death in the family and had to literally just take off at moment's notice. You can still get to the airport and do some quick research to figure out. I know it's hard to think at the same time. The more you do it, however, the easier it becomes over time. I've been doing this for years. So when I travel, I immediately know exactly what I need to do. I don't have to think about it very, very, very hard. And I actually like going on Yelp to check to see where I want to go. And I've already usually perused the menu as well, because it just makes it a whole lot easier on my part. I don't have to think as much about it. And I'm a planner, so I just like that part of it. So hopefully that helped you guys out. It is doable. You can travel and stay within your health goals. You just have to make a choice, and then you have to do some research and some preparation, just a little bit. Maybe 20 minutes is all it takes me to be prepared for that. But you guys, I get my best ideas from you. So make sure that you leave a message below, leave a comment, give me some great ideas. You can also message me directly on Facebook Messenger, because I do respond, believe it or not. Have an incredible week, you guys. And there will be Meals with Melissa this Saturday. By the way, those avocado cookies last week, I don't know if I should make any more. I keep eating them. They're so good. And they're sugar-free. Imagine that. So have an incredible week, you guys. Have a good night. See you soon.